Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 7 of the Anime Banter podcast with your hosts Turtle, Sean, and Mike. Thank you for joining us today. How are you guys doing?
I'm very excited. This is a special episode for us, isn't it?
It sure is. This is what we're going to be calling a Banter Blitz episode, where we break down a whole series, a whole season, a movie, whatever it might be, all in one episode.
Yeah, we're looking forward to our first Banter Blitz. Hopefully not our last Banter Blitz. And this was a good start because I had never seen Star Wars Visions Volume 1. So, it's definitely fresh content for me.
I watched Volume 1. I thought it was fine. Like, it was a cool premise, but it's been 2 years since Volume 1 has came out, and I don't really remember much of it.
Yeah, there were like one or two of Volume 1 that I thought were really good, and the rest were, well, they're okay. They're fun little stories. So I was kind of shocked as well as excited when they announced that there was going to be a Volume 2.
There's also, if you can't tell yet, today we are talking about Star Wars Visions Volume 2, which can be viewed on Disney Plus. And there's a big difference between Volume 1 and Volume 2. Volume 1, each episode had a very distinct anime feel to it. They were all going to different anime studios, where with this volume, they went more across the globe to various animation studios to have them do the stories. So before we jump into talking about the episodes, why don't we each give a little bit of a breakdown of our history with Star Wars? What got you into it? What do you still follow? What do you like? What do you not like about Star Wars, etc.?
Who wants to go first?
I'll take it first.
It's all you, baby.
I, Sean, am probably the one who I'm probably the least a fan of Star Wars out of the three of us, I would say.
Boo, boo.
It doesn't mean I dislike Star
Ooh,
Wars.
this
I'm just saying
man.
that
Ooh.
I am less in tune with the Force as my other two hosts here. I obviously Return of the Jedi is my favorite Star Wars movie, and we do need to mention our favorite Star Wars movies so the fans at home can just boo us when they disagree. But my favorite's Return of the Jedi. A pretty safe pick. It's probably one of my top 5 movies of all time. It was like the culmination of a wonderful saga that was just groundbreaking in cinema at the time. Obviously, I've seen episodes 1 through 9. I've seen Rogue One, Solo. I haven't seen season 3 of The Mandalorian yet, but I did just finish the Book of Boba Fett. However, uh, my love of Star Wars typically doesn't go any deeper than just like movies and a few Disney Plus shows. I have never, I don't think I've ever really played a Star Wars video game, at least not the whole way through. I have never read any of the books in the expanded universe. I've never touched a comic for it. I don't listen to the soundtracks in my spare time, any of that. But I do respect the series. And here we go. My hot take is I don't know. I didn't hate like the newest trilogy as much as a lot of other people did. I don't know. That's not the hottest take, but I didn't loathe it with all my being. So um, I guess some might see me as a villain.
The dark side.
I'm being consumed by the dark side by not hating episodes 7, 8, and 9. I do hate episode 8 though, but yeah. Let's next person, please. Before,
I guess I'll step up. I've been a fan of Star Wars since I was a young kid. I'm sure as most listeners. Honestly, I remember watching them on TV for the first time. I'm trying to think what network. I think like Spike was playing them, and it was a weekend I was off, and I was just totally hooked. After that, we got them on VHS to show how old I am. Bought them again on DVD. They re-released them with the digital remaster on Blu-ray. I bought those. I have those. So I mean, I've just been a fan, since I saw the original movies. And the prequels came out. I was excited for them. It was not quite the same as the original trilogy. But over time, I have grown to love the prequels as well for the stuff that I like. There's stuff in them I don't care for, but you just I gravitate and appreciate the things that I do like. The stuff I like less, I just kind of just let it go past. Um, the sequel trilogies, obviously, I saw them in theaters. I try not to hate. I'm not a hateful person. I'm not a big fan of them. I just kind of ignore them right now. I just pretend they don't exist. They're not my favorite films. I did not hate Episode 8. A lot of people just absolutely despise it. I liked Grumpy Old Man Luke. The movie as a whole is not good. I acknowledge that, but I did like Grumpy Old Man Luke. I love Mark Hamill, so just seeing him on the screen and portraying this grumpy old man is brought me some sort of joy. Um, that's just me personally. Um, but I'm also a big fan of the TV series as well. Mandalorian has been huge lately. I love it to death. I love the animated shows. The Clone Wars, I think, is absolutely fantastic. Star Wars Rebels, I love to death. Very excited for the Ahsoka show, which is basically going to be Rebels season 2. I think. I hope. um, yeah, I've done some of the expanded universe books, some of the modern stuff. Not really a ton of the what do they call it now for the old books? The
The Legend series.
yeah, the Legends. I think the only books that I've read of the Legends was the original Thrawn trilogy, which is great. I love Thrawn. Um, done a few audiobooks for the new stuff. Kind of been out of it. Unfortunately, I've not gotten into the High Republic. I just don't have a lot of time. I keep hearing it's really good, and I definitely would like to. Hopefully, they do some sort of like animation or movie. I know they're working on a movie in that era. I would like to explore that. I just don't have a lot of time to do additional reading and stuff like that. But I don't really do comic books. I've heard good and bad things about the comics, but yeah, typically movies, the TV shows, the animated stuff I'm way into. Haven't really done any of the games. I know it's especially like the games, most of them are like not canon. I think the only ones canon are the Jedi Fallen Order and now Survivor, which is recently out. Haven't really had a chance to play those. But yeah, just pretty much anything Star Wars that I have time that I can get my hands on. I love the storytelling. I love the grandiose galaxy that's been built, and I just want more in that world.
If Sean is the Padawan and Turtle is the Jedi Knight, I am probably the Jedi Master of the three of us. I've been I got into the movies back when I was real young, probably anywhere from 8 to 10. My dad had the original trilogies on VHS and I probably watched them once a month maybe. So love the OG trilogy. Used to play the Decipher Star Wars card game back when that was a thing. Still call it one of the best card game engines I've ever played. Wish that system would come back. Wish that card game would come back. The prequel trilogy, one sucked, two was okay, three was good. The sequel trilogy, I actually really liked 7 and 9. I absolutely hated 8 and have not watched it again since I saw it in theaters the one time. I actually really like 9 because it pulled a lot of the ideas from the old expanded universe books, which I read a lot of. I read the Thrawn trilogy. I read the Yazenvong series, which that'd be amazing as a TV show or a movie. Well, movies. Read the tales of the bounty hunters that brought the idea of Boba Fett surviving the Sarlacc pit. Played a ton of the games. Most recently, Jedi Fallen Order. Still need to play Survivor. Haven't even picked it up yet. Played KOTOR 1. Trying to think. Of course, the old pod racing game. Played the crap out of that. So, yeah, have a ton of Lego Star Wars and actually just got a couple new sets. I got the Bosch helmet and the Grogu Lego Star Wars sets. So, excited to build those. So, went to Galaxy's Edge a couple years ago and absolutely died and went to heaven. Built a lightsaber while I was there. So if it's Star Wars, odds are I'm going to want to consume it in some way. Love all the shows on Disney Plus, and they can't. If they keep making them, I will keep consuming them.
Here, here.
I will also consume product. Disney just the evil Disney empire just churns out product, and I keep consuming it. I can't stop. For me, it's the MCU mostly. Whatever they put out for the MCU, it could be a steaming pile of crap. I will still watch it. It won't matter.
Well, speaking of consume, the Fantasy Flight Games announced a new Star Wars CCG, and my buddy Greg and I both said if it's anything like the Decipher Star Wars game, that shut up, take our money, and I am ready to be heard again by FFG after the Star Wars Destiny fiasco a couple years ago.
I was gonna say I just heard about that new card game they announced, and I'm excited. I definitely want some more information. I want to see some cards. Um,
Fantasy Flight Games had to really try to mess that up.
yeah,
You know what I mean? Like how do you not succeed in a Star Wars card game? I mean, come on, it's Star Wars. Like, dang, they really blew it.
All I know is card makers recreate the Decipher card game. I will play it. I will play the shit out of it. You will have my money.
I mean, what I heard is like they've been working on this game for about 3 years, and they're already talking about local tournaments and play, and they're trying to build a community for this, which is a good first step to whatever this game is going to play like. So that's good news to hear that they want this game to succeed.
Shall we jump into the episodes?
Let's
Let's
do
hit
it.
it.
With this being a Banter Blitz pod episode, we're going to break down each episode, not scene by scene, but what we each liked about each episode, what we didn't like, and with this show being each episode being done by a different studio, we're going to talk a little bit about the studio, what other work they may have worked on in the past. So with that, episode 1, Sith. Sith was done by Guire Studios. They are based out of Madrid, Spain. And according to IMDb, this is their first official project that they've worked on. But their co founder has worked on Troll Hunters, Up, and Wally.
Ah, I
A
did not
former
know that.
Pixar person. Looks like they branched off and made their own studio.
What did you guys think of this episode?
I like this one. I think this is a really good one to open up on. It's a CG style, and it's very it's like a moving painting. Like you can see the brush strokes of the paintbrush throughout the whole thing on the characters on the walls. It's a really cool aesthetic on this one.
That's what I was gonna say. Just remind me of watercolors. If that's the look that they were going for, great job. You could tell at certain points they were almost arrogantly flexing how good they were at animation. But like so when she when she's lifting the bubbles and like they're changing colors and like I'm like, okay guys, I get it. You're really good at this.
I was going to say, for this being this studio's first official project, according to IMDb, they nailed it out of the park with this one. I absolutely loved the art style with all the paint strokes and at times the background feeling like storyboards.
It's
Like,
really cool. Like as she goes from room to room, like the paintings will change and like come alive. And there's this one scene where she's like walking down, and it's like all of a sudden she's walking through this painted jungle. There's trees, there's vines hanging, and then she goes into the next room and she's jumping on like different lily pads, like there's water underneath her. And I'm like, what is going on with this room?
I loved the transitions being done with like the paint strokes and everything. I also really like the transition where like she was walking through and it looked like she was walking through the head of her Sith master.
Oh yeah,
I thought that was a really cool transition.
yeah, I forgot about that one. Yeah, it's everything was just so well done on this.
I also loved the look of the droid. Like it was so adorable,
Oh, that droid is awesome. I made a note what I was watching. Like, I want this droid to pop up again somewhere in canon.
I mean, especially because like that laser beam attack was no joke.
Oh,
Like we're so accustomed to droids having like these rinky dink attacks where like they'll do a little shock treatment or something, not just like blast a huge ass laser beam out of its eye socket and decapitate someone.
you see like the barrel come out from his eye, and the robot hunter is just staring at it like what, and then boom, it was incredible.
Is that that's definitely different from the R2D2 taser that we occasionally see, or the cattle prod. I don't
Or BB-8's lighter,
know. Yeah,
Thumbs up.
the thumbs up lighter. I loved the look of the Sith Master.
yeah, yeah. Very good. Very like Sith are supposed to be frightening, kind of, and dude was freaky. I liked it.
I guess if I had to pick one complaint, it would actually be the Sith Master for me, because to me it just looked like they pulled him out of KOTOR or something.
That I was sort of thinking that
Uh,
too
It
whenever I
wasn't.
first watched it. I wanted to like
Good
pull
point.
up old Kotor like Sith. I'm like, who is like? I feel like have seen this Sith somewhere before.
Yeah, not to say he looks bad, but he just looks kind of unoriginal. Like that was an already made design that they just tweaked a little bit, you know. So that was really my only complaint with this one is he looked a little. We already did that.
That's a fair point.
Yeah, I will say this studio got the assignment of making the lightsabers look cool as shit, and they absolutely nailed it.
Oh man, the Sith Master sword. I made notes. It looks like a traditional like European knight sword, and the apprentice was like a katana, and it was like a double katana.
And I just loved how the lightsaber blades themselves were just paint strokes.
Yes.
Like, and it looked so
Yes.
cool in action. Like when they dueled, I'm like, this is fantastic. Like everything about the duel was great. The way the lightsabers clashed, all the transitions with the paint. It's just like this episode was. I loved it. It's like, man, first episode, it's gonna be hard to top this one.
Yeah, the coloring in particular was really good for this.
This is an episode that or a studio, whatever you want to say, I really hope Star Wars gives them more. Whether it be an animated show, like give them a 5, 6 piece animated show to like tell a comprehensive story, or I would even love to see more of the background on these characters.
Yeah, that would be pretty neat actually.
That is one of the things about this season of Visions that number one, they do say that like stories inspired by Star Wars. I noticed like they use that
Yes,
wording to essentially be like the this is not necessarily Star Wars canon. This is
right.
just cool side stories that will have no implications on anything.
And they have
Um,
said that these episodes are not canon to the Star Wars
yeah.
lore.
So in that regard, I guess I do want to say that even if we don't get more Star Wars content from this studio specifically, I think we're going to start. If you needed a showcase for your studio, episode 1 of season 2 is like a great place to be.
I would not be surprised if we saw more from this studio either on Netflix, Hulu, hell, even Disney Plus. They had the
Maybe.
partnership.
I was gonna say if this is like their first, their own product, what a way to start! What a statement that this made. So I would very much like to see, even if it's not in Star Wars, I would like to see this studio do something because visually this was really good.
And if the founder is indeed former Pixar, then who knows? There could be Pixar outsourcing done to this studio if they teach the Pixar way to other people. I don't know. We might see a lot more from them.
That's true. Round of applause, guys.
Yes, overall, really, really like this
Big
episode.
thumbs up episode, yeah.
With that, we are on to Screecher's Reach. This episode was done by Cartoon Saloon, and they are based out of Kilkenny, Ireland. They have worked on Belle, Wolfwalkers, Song of the Sea, and Netflix Puffin Rock, which is a kids penguin show. And maybe it was just because this came right after Sith, but right off the start, the art style wasn't really vibing with me. And I'm not sure if it's just because I liked Sith's art style so much or not.
I could see that. I mean, honestly, I do like the art style. It's a little more children's cartoon appearance, but I think it fits with the vibe that they were going for. It's and I just to be upfront, not to say that I dislike any of these, but this one in particular, I think, is my least favorite of the group.
Not me. I enjoy a good ghost story.
I mean, it fits with the Deepman files for you.
Yeah, it does.
That's
Yep.
true.
Uh, I also want to say that halfway through the episode, or 3/4 of the way through the episode, the ghost screams,
Yeah,
and I wasn't expecting it. And when I was watching this episode during work, I almost like ripped my earbuds out of my ears, or like slapped my phone or something, because I was I needed to stop.
Yeah, I was not expecting the screams to be
Yeah.
so loud and so frequent. It's like, okay, let me turn my volume of the TV down by half of what I had it at.
Yeah, it's just like being at work made me laugh because no one around me knows what's going on, but I'm like reaching for my phone, like fumbling with my phone to turn the volume down as fast as possible.
But
yeah. Whoever did the screaming, my goodness, it's intense.
I
But
really, oh god,
and I was gonna say, man, to be a kid on a planet, and then I'd like on essentially like like a child labor in the mines. You know what I mean? Like you're there, and then all of a sudden some Jedi shows up, and it's like, hey guys, so like I have a chance to make my life better.
well, I don't think that was a Jedi.
Or
Yeah,
like
I mean,
whoever it was. Yeah.
at the very end, I got real not
Uh,
Jedi vibes from that character.
yeah, I guess you're right. There was something unnerving about the character's presence that I guess leads you to believe it's probably a Sith, especially because they very obviously took um a lightsaber from a Sith,
Yeah,
right?
Yep.
It was red, right? So
Yes.
not
Yeah.
not that Jedi can't have red lightsabers, maybe, but red is usually the evil color of the lightsaber. So they give this person the lightsaber, and then when the person comes down, they say it's yours now. I guess it really does indicate that they were picked up by the Sith. However, if you were a child laborer in the mines and a Sith Lord came to you and said, "I will take you out of the mines," wouldn't you? Wouldn't you go?
I can't fault her for leaving. Honestly, I can't.
No.
Well, like she had that little communicator too, and like the communicator lit up red, and I'm like, this is a Sith. They're abducting this child. Like, oh, I'll take you out of the mines, and you can have a better life. Except I'm going to train you to be evil.
And this character only showed up after she killed the ghost of
Right.
Screech Reach. Like a
That's true.
Jedi doesn't condone
No
killing. Like
killing.
Yeah. Go hunt down this former Sith.
Good point. Listen, people, I watched this during work. Like I'm gonna miss a story beat here and there.
You're fine. You're fine.
yeah,
It's I appreciate the ghost story aspect of it. I thought it was cool, and I don't think any other episode in this season, at least, does anything ghost story wise. So I thought it was a nice spin. It's just I don't know as a whole with the animation and the whole Sith abduction at the end kind of thing. It's just this one didn't sit as well with me as the others. Again,
Not
not
your
to say that
vibe.
it's bad. It's definitely not bad. It's good.
I did really like the look of the ghost though. Like
That's true.
when they were telling the ghost story and the shadow is on the wall, that was cool. The way she looked when they were in the cave was cool, and like when light shown on the like was shown on her, it I was getting some Gollum vibes. Where like, oh, that she was holding on to the dark for so long that it transformed her into like a old witch looking person, and like Gollum transformed from like a human being to what we all know Gollum as. Like it's like, oh, you let the darkness hold on to you too long, it transforms you into something unrecognizable where people think you're a ghost.
That's a good point. And similar to Lord of the Rings, when she uses or when she loses her lightsaber to the kid, she's sort of reverted back into more of a normal old lady. So that's a good point. And I gotta throw a shout out in this episode to the small boy.
Oh, I loved him and Kina and Quinn. I loved those two characters. They were so adorable.
The small boy was really funny. It's he made me laugh anytime he was being silly. You know, it
And
was when they first start to gather in the beginning of the episode. He pulls out his tool. He's like, "We could steal some speeders." I was like, "This kid's awesome."
I really enjoyed him. I'm pretty sure this was that voice actor, one of his first pieces of work that he's done. But
Well,
yeah, I really enjoyed all of his quips.
I hope to hear him in more things because he was great. He was very funny.
I also will say they really nailed the look of the lightsaber in this episode too. It was
Yeah, it
another.
was
The blade was very unique.
it was very painted like in Sith. It had a similar kind of style to it. It was very cool.
Part of the flex here for all these episodes was how cool can we make the lightsabers look.
Yeah,
Every animation studio that had a lightsaber in their episode answered the call.
They understood the assignment and they crushed it.
hey guys, this is non-canon. How sick can we make these things look and act? And they did it.
Imagine getting an episode where like you can't draw a lightsaber in the episode, and then just
It'd
being
be
like,
tough.
"Aw."
I know these episodes don't interplay with each other, but you could almost act like Screecher's Reach is a prequel to Sith, because in Sith she leaves her Sith master, she kills she kills the Sith master. She doesn't want to be a part of the Sith anymore. This episode, you have a young girl who wants to get the hell out of off this island and have a better life, kills someone and becomes starts her Sith training.
I actually thought the same thing when I was watching it for the first time.
It would be pretty cool if a couple of the episodes were linked in certain ways, but just very loosely, so they don't affect each other's plots.
Yeah,
But I don't know. I mean, I guess it's fine the way it is.
Overall, I thought this was a middle of the road episode. Didn't love it, didn't hate it. In 6 months, I probably won't really remember it.
yeah. Again, like I liked all of these. I'm a sucker for Star Wars, but this is probably my least favorite of the bunch.
This was one of my favorites. Yeah, the ghost story, the kind of twist. Like you said, if you don't mind the occasional almost bad end, it was pretty dark. You know, showing like essentially these people live to mine. You know what I mean? Like this is, I don't know. They live in harsh conditions, and seeing the darker side of Star Wars isn't always bad,
I
as
did
we're gonna
really,
see in the next episode.
yeah. I did. Before we move on, I did want to make mention. I really like the music in this episode.
Yeah, they all have really really great artwork, but this one does have some very good music in it to back it up.
Episode 3, In the Stars. This episode was done by Punk Robot, and they are based out of Chile. And they don't have much to their IMDb profile. They worked on a short called Bear Story, and they also worked on Nahul and the Magic Book. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that 100% right, but taking a stab at it.
Animation was cool.
Yeah.
Kind of, it was unique.
Yes, I didn't like the way that the two sisters looked per se, but I really liked the style of the Tie Fighter and the Stormtroopers.
Yeah, and when the painting story is going on,
Oh,
that's on the rock.
I loved that. That was so cool.
That
Yeah,
was such a great way to like show their culture as well as give you a flashback to how these characters got here all in one animation. I thought that was awesome.
I'm not the biggest fan of claymation, so that's why I wasn't a huge fan of the look of the two sisters.
I
But
really dig it actually. I mean, it reminds me of the classic Christmas animations, like the claymation that like I watch every year when it comes Christmas time. So
Yeah,
this
like
is
Rudolph and stuff.
yeah, Rudolph and Year Without a
Santa
Santa
Claus has come to
Claus,
Yeah.
town.
Santa Claus come, all that. It reminded me of that, and it was I thought it was really well done, and it looks really really well animated when the characters are moving. They have the one shot where like I think the little girl is running off in the distance, and they show her really really tiny, and you could see her arms and legs moving. I'm like, this is really well done.
Yeah, and I was a really big fan of things like as we'll get to soon, like Wallace and Gromit, as well as things like I don't know, like Robot Chicken. Even more recently, things like that. Robot Chicken was all stop motion,
Yes,
and you're seeing YouTube videos where people are playing around with stop motion. I'm a really big fan of that medium of art.
Yeah.
it's just so different in today's day and age, and it really stands out, and I think it's really cool.
I do like the old Christmas movies. Just for what something with the way the two sisters looked was not clicking with me.
No, I didn't care for their design either, actually.
They kind of had these horn things going on, and I thought the mask that the elder sister had was pretty cool.
Yeah, that was a neat mask. And like even the Empire the Empire head honcho at the plant, I really didn't like the way she looked either. But like the stormtroopers looked really cool.
Yeah, she had this. She was kind of strange, but she was menacing at the same time, and I think that's what they were going for.
Yeah, let me just say, stormtroopers have never looked so cool as in this Vision series. Every episode with a stormtrooper makes them look awesome.
Yeah,
They are often like a just a plain looking character, but yeah, a lot of the stormtroopers, the art was really well done in these episodes.
agreed.
The one thing I really liked about this episode was it did a great job showing how evil the Empire is, much like Andor did.
Haven't seen Andor.
Boo that man.
I'm gonna have to take the boo on this one because I've only seen the first 3 episodes.
Boo to both of you. Boo to
Eh,
both of you. Andor might be the some of the best Star Wars stuff of recent memory. Like I loved Rogue One. It's my second favorite Star Wars movie behind Empire, and it was a little slow to start, but you get to episode 6 and it's holy shit, balls to the wall, just nutso. And then you get to episode 10 and you're like, okay, that was the season finale, right? And they're like, nope, hold my beer, we got 2 more episodes. So it's like, it was fantastic.
Yeah, I have to go back and give it another shot. I had trouble getting into it, but I really did like Rogue One. I thought that's a great film. So I guess I just need to give Andor another shot.
Rogue One was pretty dark. Um, so I guess if you like that kind of vibe, then maybe Andor is the show. I don't know. I finished Book of Boba Fett like seriously less than a week ago, so I'm that far back on the Star Wars stuff. Of course, I'm probably gonna watch Mando before Andor because you know
Because
Mando,
it's
because
Mando.
it's Mando.
It's got
Yeah,
Carl Weathers.
Andor was just,
Well, and Grogu.
And Grogu, yeah.
I
I
cannot speak highly enough of Andor because like I said with this episode, it shows how many like there's been pretty much every Star Wars movie they're like the Empire's bad, like the main storylines. They're like the Empire's bad. It's like yeah they have Emperor Palpatine and his Sith apprentice and Darth Vader and they're hunting the Jedi down. Like you never see the depth of how evil the Empire really is until you get into Andor and you're like, oh, this isn't just a Palpatine and Vader thing in Tarkin. Like the the level of evil in the Empire goes deep, like down to like the low class employees, the low level employees.
Well, to say, well, if you're a fan of, it's cool because you can tell they took that from history. You know what I mean? When you
Yeah.
go through human history and you see like fascist regimes, like the Empire is, you see how, like you said, even the low level people, like it's infectious, the way they treat people. So if you're a fan of history, I guess maybe Andor is the right thing because it
Yep.
you know
Yeah.
it aligns with that.
So yeah, for In the Stars, while it may not have been my favorite art style, this was one of my favorite stories of all the episodes.
Yeah, I really like this one as well. And the water effects, man, the water effects were really good.
Those were cool.
It's just like they had the one scene where she's like getting the water in her backpack, and they showed like the water filling up. I'm like, that was really cool. And then they have the scene at the end with like the flash flood, and I'm like, that how do you do that? How in the world do you guys do that? It's really good. I like this one a lot. I think it's a great story. I like the claymation stop motion style animation and character designs. A little weird, but I was in. I liked it.
Good episode.
So this episode we're about to talk about, just gonna give my disclaimer now, was my least favorite of the episodes. So I don't have much to say about this episode. And we are talking about I Am Your Mother. This was done by Aardman, based out of the UK, and this is definitely the biggest studio that worked on Volume 2. These guys, this studio has worked on Wallace and Gromit, Chicken Run, and Shaun the Sheep, to name their big hitters. They have over 750 credits on IMDb, and this might be a hot take, but I'm not a fan of the Wallace and Gromit style.
That's fair. I mean, it's definitely unique. I never really watched those shows. I'm familiar with Wallace and Gromit because it was just that big where I saw commercials and things for it. So when I saw this, I was being like, man, why does this look sort of familiar? And why do I kind of know this? And this is why.
It
I will.
In my house growing up, we had a Wallace and Gromit alarm clock that said "Morning Gromit, time for walkies." We were huge fans of Wallace and Gromit growing up in my household. Uh, but um, I love the studio. I love claymation, but I have to say that um, the main characters, like the alien race they chose to portray, I feel like didn't mesh quite as well with that Wallace and Gromit style. Do you know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah,
I thought
Yeah,
they looked a little goofy because I know what the race is supposed to look like versus what they looked like in the episode, and I felt like they looked a little goofy. I don't know.
like the Wookiees looked fine.
oh,
Yeah,
dude,
but the regular humans looked fine too. It was just
Yeah,
like the
the
main
Twi'leks did not
two
look
people.
very good.
No,
this this episode as a whole, at least to me, was by far and away the funniest. This made me laugh out loud multiple times. I don't know if it was just me, but there are some very funny bits in here, like physical comedy that really sits with me. So, especially like I watched it twice. Going back and seeing it again, I was catching other things I didn't see on the first run. This made me laugh. I do kind of like this one. It's genuinely funny to me.
The only thing I there's two things I liked about this episode: the music and the fact that they got Dennis Lawson to reprise Wedge.
Dude, Wedge is so silly in this one. I love it.
I didn't realize that was a reprisal role.
Yep, this was the only episode that got. I mean, it's the only episode that used an existing Star Wars character,
Good
but they
point.
actually got Dennis Lawson to do his voice lines.
And he's so silly about it. He's like this typical just announcer character, and he's like, "Don't forget to check out my merch booth with everything Wedge." I was dying. It's so funny.
Well, he's a hero of the rebellion, you know. Some of those heroes of the rebellion type of people, you know. Ham it up, I guess.
This episode made me laugh a lot. The Wookiees, like when the race begins, they have this shot where the Wookiees are just absolutely petrified, mouths hanging open. They're just screaming Wookiee, and I was dying. It was so funny. It's the ship's like wobbling, like falling out of the air.
I did like the episode from the fact that the first three episodes are actually kind of intense at times, and especially so like this one being like an almost all comedy episode with very few actual like real high stakes. 'Cause all the episodes had high stakes, and
Yeah,
having a low stakes episode was kind of a nice break from like the intensity of the previous three episodes. So I didn't mind its placement. It was not my favorite episode, but it wasn't my least favorite episode either.
yeah. I think comedy is a big part of Star Wars, and this one is mostly like all comedy. It's lighthearted. It's silly. You're meant to just have a fun time where most of the other ones get pretty dark and are pretty serious. So I really appreciated the humor in this one.
Yeah, and like I said, this is my least favorite episode of the 9, so I'll just leave it at that from my end.
The was it the evil mother and daughter, the Van Riepels. They're racing and their spaceship has this mini Death Star that comes out and shoots the laser.
I did think that was a good touch.
It was so good. And then when they crash at the end, if you look, the mother's hair is like bobbing up and down off of her head. Like her hair, it's a hairpiece, it's loose. It's all these little things. I was like, this is just really well done. It's very silly, and I appreciate it. And it's a cute story. All parents can be embarrassing. That's what parents do.
That they do. That they do. It's part of the job.
Exactly. Did we mention this episode has Wedge?
Wedge!
Don't forget to check out his merch booth.
Journey to the Dark Head. This episode was done by Studio Mir. They're based out of South Korea. They have worked. They have over 200 credits on IMDb. They have worked on The Legend of Korra, Harley Quinn on HBO Max, The Boondocks, and The Witcher: Nightmare of the Wolf on Netflix. So definitely another heavy hitting studio. I believe
I,
they. I believe this studio has the second most credits on their IMDb of the 9 studios.
I had no idea how big this studio is as far as like their previous works.
I didn't either until I started digging into it. Because when I first started the episode, I'm like, I was sort of getting some Legend of Korra vibes from the art. And
Especially
I'm
in the
like,
beginning.
yes, yeah. And then you go and look and you're like, oh, well, they did Legend of Korra. That's why I'm getting those vibes. I also got a little bit, not a huge amount, but a little bit of Sith feel, like how they use a different style for flashbacks, the flashback scene at the beginning, and it sort of had that paint stroke look to it, where the rest had like it was all just like maybe it was they did the grainy look on purpose to show that it was a flashback, but the rest had a very modern looking Korra feel to it.
Yeah, the flashback scene had a little bit of grain. It's like the character outlines actually had some motion to them, which was really
Yes,
unique.
I really like that.
It was really cool. I don't know how you do that. But then when they go to like the modern time era, when they get out of the flashback, the animation is like the best animation I think I've ever seen in anything. Everything was so fluid. Everything like you visually you can follow it. I didn't see anything strange pop out at me. The colors were so vibrant and consistent. This is my favorite one. It's hands down. I think everything just came together so well. The characters were interesting. The character designs were really cool. The animation was good. The colors were good. The music was good. The story was cool. I want to see more of these two characters, the main two characters at least. I want to see them in their own thing.
I love the banter between the two main characters. But yeah, I would also love to see more of these two characters.
I was really into this one.
Yeah, pretty much everything from beginning to end between the animation, the story, like one cohesive narrative, constant impressive animation. I don't. The thing is, like, I feel like I don't have that much to say about it besides like this is as close to like the perfect episode of this project Visions that you can get. I didn't watch any of season one, but I kind of have a hard time believing that anything in season one could match up to this episode. Personally, maybe it could though.
I would
I will
actually have to go back and watch season one again, but I remember there were some cool styles, but like this is just so well put together and so well done.
I will say this is the first episode that really felt like an anime that we watched of volume 2,
Yeah,
between the art style, the story of it all. Like you had the flashback of the girl, you had the flashback of the Jedi and looking to get revenge on the Sith after their fight, and like it all happened to be that the vision that she saw in the flashback was the fight at the end of the episode. And I just loved how the fight scenes were just so well done.
oh my goodness.
Both of them. There were two fight scenes, and they were both incredible.
Just like the motion, the character motion. Again, like you could follow it. There was no, it didn't look like it was blurred or like frames were missing. Everything was just perfect.
Yeah. That if I were to recommend one episode of Volume 2, this would probably be the one that I recommend.
Yeah, definitely. I
I would
agree.
have to agree.
So yeah, go watch this episode, especially if you enjoy Legend of Korra and Harley Quinn.
Harley
Or
Quinn's supposed to be pretty good.
I've heard good things. I haven't watched it yet. It's on my
Uh,
list.
Yeah.
it is pretty good. It's like really funny.
I actually just watched Legend of Korra for the first time during in 2020 during the initial lockdown.
Ah,
Same with me actually. That was the first time I saw Avatar actually.
Me too, and I loved both series.
I was actually watching Korra as it released on Nickelodeon. I was on
Oh,
top of that
cool.
show. I actually saw Avatar season three, the finale when it originally released on TV.
And there's
Dang.
a Weiss set coming out for Avatar here soon.
There is. I pre-ordered it, so if you guys are fans, I plan to do an unboxing video at some point. I'll have to figure out how I'm going to do that,
Ooh,
camera wise.
nice.
But yeah, stay attuned to the YouTube. I'll do an unboxing when I get my stuff.
Don't say we ever mentioned on here for the Spotify listeners that we have a YouTube channel. If YouTube is your preferred listening platform, you can head over there and check out the channel.
We also have some. We have one unboxing video up there currently. I feel like we want to get more video content up there soon for you guys, for you listeners.
Yeah, I don't have a great camera or anything, but we we're into card games and stuff. So when we get sets like the Avatar set for White Schwartz, I plan to do an unboxing for that. I'm into the One Piece card game when I can actually get product. So if I get product, I will be doing some unboxing for that as well for anyone who's interested. So stay tuned.
Yeah, and maybe we'll do a Techo vlog.
That would be fun.
On to the next episode, The Spy Dancer. This episode was done by Studio La Cachette, and they are based out of France. They have a small resume, but they have worked on Primal, and they also have worked on Love, Death, and Robots on Netflix. I loved this episode. The art style was very unique. I loved the look of the stormtroopers. Like they were so different and unique. I loved it.
Yeah, this one was really cool.
I agree.
It was really weird seeing the stormtroopers actually remove their helmets to watch the show.
Yeah, this one really like humanizes them because this is the concept of this. I think has been around for a while, but to see it play out in Star Wars, you never see stormtroopers take their helmets off. Like even in the original movies, when Han and Luke steal the stormtrooper outfits, you never see the guys underneath. You just see afterwards they're already dressed. So to see troopers pull their helmets off, and you're like, oh yeah, they are just people under there.
It's pretty weird because I guess if you kill a stormtrooper, you feel less bad if they're kind of just like a mindless killing machine of the Empire. But if you kill a stormtrooper, but you can see their face and like realize they have emotions and feelings potentially, I think a lot of people might start to feel bad for them, and well, Star Wars doesn't want that happening.
This episode started a little slow for me, honestly. For how much I loved it. The first 5 minutes, first half of it, dragged. But then once Chloe went out for her dance and started throwing the trackers, shit really ramped up, and I was hooked. Like I couldn't. I watched this episode twice, and I couldn't look away both times once it got to this point of the episode.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, it took a twist I wasn't expecting.
Yeah, I was going to say that I wasn't going to touch on that yet because that happens at the end. But yeah, I did not see that coming either. But just the whole her outfit with her dancing with the cloth just going every which way, and it hid her tossing the trackers onto the troopers. Really, really cool.
Not only that, I loved. Oh, I love. Before we even get into the fight scene, I loved the sword bracelet thing she put on. It felt very reminiscent of the hidden blade from Assassin's Creed.
Yes,
Yeah, it did.
So yeah, I loved how well before we start the fight scene, I love how the DJ let out a "I have a bad feeling about this." It's like yes, yes, finally someone threw out the top Star Wars reference.
It's got to be in every project somewhere. It's a requirement at this point.
But I loved this fight scene. It might have been one of my favorite fight scenes. It was just everything was great about it. The way they mixed the music playing and it almost being like a stage show and using the dancing to fight. Like everything about the fight scene was just really well done. And then you had like the 2v2, like you had the two main characters squaring off against the two main Empire characters. Everything about it was I just loved it.
It only worked because stormtroopers have horrifically bad aim. They keep that up in this episode. It's like 20 stormtroopers all surrounding a person and shooting. And can't hit them. Have to. Oh, guys, we can't shoot the person. They have to take 15 steps to reach us, then stab us with a knife. Um, the classic. But then again, in the animation world, the sword is always mightier than the gun.
That's usually true.
I also loved the twist at the end. How the main character thought that this was the Empire soldier that stole her baby or killed her baby, and it's just such a good twist.
Yeah, it was a great twist. I didn't see that coming. But I mean, my question was like, why did the Imperial officer take the baby? That seems so out of character for Imperial behavior.
I
Well,
mean,
they
I
in
I
episode 7 they talk about it with Finn, right? Like they raid the orphanages to get children they can brainwash into working for
yep,
the Empire, right? So
yeah, and
That's
this
true.
and this also feels another episode of look how evil the Empire is. Like they
child
went in,
soldiers.
killed everyone. They stole this baby and raised him in the ways of the Empire to make him be like the imperial officer of the planet, his very own planet, not realizing that. Well, I mean, he knew he was born there, I think, because he was trying to hide his horns.
Yeah, he would have to.
But like, he thought that the imperial officer that stole him was his father, and like, it felt very much of a look how evil the Empire is. We're gonna make we took your planet. Now we are coming to your um, dance studio, and you are going to entertain us. And yeah, we'll pay you, but your job is now entertain us. Not this is no longer your land. These are no longer your people, your supplies. This all belongs to us.
That's fair. I didn't think about that on my watch throughs, but that makes sense.
It's another reason why I really like this episode. It's like yes, more Andor feel.
But hold up, okay? Maybe I missed it. Maybe I wasn't paying full attention because once again I watched some of these while I was working. Did she talk about her kid in the beginning of the episode?
We saw some flashbacks
Yeah,
of
Because when I was watching it, she's like, "They took my kid, and that's you," and I was like, "Wait, what?" I was like, "I think I missed something important here because I kind of just felt like it came out of nowhere."
yeah, they showed that flashback a couple times.
Yeah, well, that was my fault. Sorry, listeners.
Really like this episode. Really like the art style. I really hope this studio does more work in general. And again, great music.
yeah. The music in these, all of these, have been like really good to absolutely amazing.
The Bandits of Golak. This episode was done by 88 Pictures. They are based out of India. They have worked on Troll Hunters, Spirit Untamed, Wizards, and the VeggieTales show. They have 145 credits on IMDb. And I love right off the bat. Love the music in this episode. Absolutely loved it.
Yeah, the traditional Indian style music really fits well in a Star Wars setting.
It worked surprisingly well, actually. I would say the setting was. It almost doesn't feel like Star Wars, but that's just because like in the movies and everything, they don't have this kind of setting. But when you think about it, Star Wars has, if there's 1,000 planets in the Star Wars galaxy, right? There would be not only 1,000 different cultures, but 1,000 different subcultures within those cultures. So it makes sense that you would see all kind of unique things.
And I know it's an Indian studio, but they did such a great job making this feel like Star Wars in India.
Yeah, absolutely. They had a lot of Indian elements with like the characters' outfits, just designs in general
The
for like
food,
buildings, the food.
the food, the buildings, the train, the music.
But none of it looked out of place to me.
No,
Everything was just really well worked in and just felt Star Wars.
yeah,
What's I like when you very, thrown out there when you have an Indian studio do an Indian aesthetic, like everything's coherent and doesn't feel like weird.
it doesn't feel forced at all.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, oh, like everything just looks the way it should, and it's very well done.
And I will say, like, not the greatest story in this episode, but I love like the little girl annoyed me. Like the brother's like, don't and like the brother was sort of being a jerk too. Like all the girl wanted to do was play the flute. It's like, okay, they're on the train. Just let her play the flute softly. Like would passengers get annoyed? Probably, but like they would also probably say, "Oh, okay, it's a kid, whatever." Like had he just given her the flute right off the get go, this whole story would have been over in like 2 minutes.
That's fair because like even when she takes the flute via the Force, like she plays it really well. So it's not like it would be like, oh my god, this kid's trying to play this flute or recorder and it sounds atrocious. I want to rip my ears off. She played it well, so most people I figure would just be like, oh, some music, okay. It's like this whole scenario could have been avoided.
I I really really loved the look of the Sith Inquisitor.
Oh, he looks incredible.
He was so dope looking.
Good
I,
design.
I think they based him off of like the Jinn, which is like a genie or sometimes evil spirit, and that's sort of where they got the base design. But holy mustache, he's terrifying. That's an evil mustache.
Well put.
That is a dark side mustache if I've ever seen one.
I also really loved how the old woman Jedi, the fact that her cane is what held her lightsabers.
Great design, right? I love unique stuff.
Like fantastic.
Very creative.
I felt kind of dumb because I didn't see that coming, and when it happened, I was like, "Oh, well, yeah, I should have saw that." And when the fight starts, I just went, "Go, Grandma, get him!" She was kicking butt.
I love the old Jedi's.
Yes.
I mean, like you said, even grumpy old Luke Skywalker, like fun. Unhinged Yoda. I go back and I watch the prequels, and then I watch episode like 6 again, and I'm like, man, old man Yoda is like unhinged and wild, and
I love that.
and like I love that stuff. So like the old Jedi's, they just don't give a crap, and they just get down to business. But also I guess they come in all shapes and sizes. But you can't for all people who are supposed to be always meditating and in tune with things. They all seem to go a little crazy when they get old.
I mean, to be fair, they've seen some shit.
That's
Oh,
true.
very true.
And can I backtrack to the train sequence with the troopers just briefly?
Of course.
They have the scene where like the boy is trying to draw the attention of the troopers, so he like goes out the one door of the moving train, and the trooper sticks his head out. He's looking around like, "Huh, wonder where he went." I'm like, "Where do you think he went? He's either in the sand 50 feet that way that you passed, or he's above you. Look up, you idiot!" And they don't look up.
Remember, stormtroopers are also stupid. Not only can they not aim, they're also stupid.
Uh,
Consistent Star Wars writing.
I'm aware. It's just that just made me go, "Oh my god, where did they get this trooper?" You have one place to look really. You're either gonna look in the sand where you've passed to look for a speck or a person running, or you're gonna look up because he climbed on top of the train. It's a train. There's nowhere to go but up. And he didn't look up. I had to mention that.
I've, we didn't really touch on the style, like the art style, and to me, it just sort of felt like it was good, it was solid, but it didn't feel unique at all.
Yeah, I can agree with that. There's a lot of CG in this season too, where I think season one is all, Japanese studios and they're all hand drawn. I think in season one, it's been a while, but in season two here, there's a lot of CG and stop motion as opposed to the traditional hand animation. So again, like it doesn't look bad, but yeah, you're right. The it's not super original outside of the Indian influences mixed in.
I can agree with that.
Overall, another fine episode. I did really like the look of the Jedi Temple, though, in the village at the end.
Hidden under the little pond there,
Yep.
it's like you're walking through a town. And there's a water fountain. You don't think anything of it, but there could be a Jedi temple underneath.
Moving on. The Pit. The Pit was done, and I'm sorry if I butcher this name, Deart Chitagio, and they are the only studio that is based out of Japan in this volume. They have worked on Pokemon the movie, Secrets of the Jungle, Castlevania on Netflix, and The Boys Presents Diabolical on Amazon Prime.
Wow.
Yeah, I was
I
gonna say I do like Castlevania, um,
I actually need to watch that
a
still.
good bit, and the animation here did not disappoint. Like it was very good.
Yeah, I'm like, no, this is some anime. Like, just the look of it felt very anime. Like,
I really like the character designs in this one. They really stick out to me.
yeah, that was cool. And you knew once when they were all digging, and you didn't know who the main character was yet. When the guy ripped his sleeve off and made it into a headband, it's like, well, he's gonna be a main character.
There's our pro tag.
He
Found
did,
them.
he did something cool. He stands out.
This was a weird story to me in some ways because like it felt like its own narrative with a Star Wars skin over it.
Yeah.
Like they could have replaced stormtroopers with anything. You know what I
Yes.
mean? They could have turned kyber crystals into just diamonds or any precious gem or metal. You know what I mean? And and then the city could have just been normal people. Like they could have told this exact story in I don't know the in a any other sci-fi realm or even in something in modern day, or maybe dystopian future type of deal. Um, and like I said, the Star Wars skin over it, honestly, it was enjoyable whether it had anything to do with Star Wars or not.
Yeah, that is a good point. This they made it feel like Star Wars, but it could have worked in any setting.
You could even like film this in live action the way this story was done. And I personally, I think this episode, this story, has the strongest statement out of all these episodes because it works outside of Star Wars. What do they say at the end? Follow the light, and I think that's a really strong statement. I really like this one just as a whole, like the message it's trying to say, especially in today's day and age. And it's like the people in the city, they're doing their own thing. They have no idea what's going on outside of their own little bubbles and just ignoring everything. And it takes this courageous, young man to shake them from their own world so they can see the bigger picture around them and that people need help. So that I really like the message in this one.
Yep, it's got a lot going on. It's anti-imperialist. You know, when you think about the precious metals in your smartphone, where do you think they came from? You know what I mean? Probably a child slave mining cobalt in Africa. You know, things like that. And you know, there are people who are oppressed and under oppressed systems who you know, serve our everyday lives, and we don't see them, so we don't notice that sort of thing happening.
I was maybe it's just because I've been reading the Mistborn series, but I was getting some very strong Mistborn vibes from this episode. The pit they were digging felt like the pits of Hathsin. They were digging for kyber crystals. much like they were digging for Atium in the pits of Hathsin. So, if these guys want to make an animated Mistborn show, I would not be opposed to that.
I'm not familiar with Mistborn.
Brandon Sanderson.
Was
He
Brandon
is,
Sanderson that guy who like finished Wheel of Time?
yes,
Oh yeah,
he
he's that guy who just like churns out a book every
he
3 weeks.
he is the opposite of
Like
George R. He's the opposite of George R. R. Martin and Patrick Rothfuss. He actually finishes his books and gives the readers
in
the next book.
mass.
Yes, he's working on like 4 books at a time.
That's insane talent.
The dude is an animal.
I couldn't write one book in my entire lifetime probably.
I
Like if you
feel
gave me
that.
a whole lifetime to write one book that's 200 pages, I don't even know if I could do it. But there are people who churn out 200 pages in a day.
Yeah, that's crazy for me to even think about being a possibility. So good on this guy if he's able to do it.
The scene at the end where the girl turned the kyber crystal blue was really cool.
Yeah, I really just the animation of the crystal changing color into the blue, and you actually like see it. I think reflect in her eyes. I was like, that's a cool shot.
Also interesting, this episode had a post credit scene.
It
It
did.
Granted probably wasn't necessary. They probably easily could have just tagged it on to the end of the episode instead of making a post credit scene.
Yeah, well, I blame Marvel for every single post-credit scene.
They definitely made it popular.
They weren't the first to do it, but they're certainly
Nope.
the ones who popularized it to the max.
I was
Yeah.
gonna say Ferris Bueller's Day Off had a post credit scene.
Oh yeah, you're right.
I can't leave a single dang movie theater without Googling, did, XYZ movie have post-credits? Because now every other
When
studio's
my
doing it.
wife and I go see a movie, the movie ends. I pull up IMDb and go into the crazy credits to see if there's anything post credit scene. I never want to do it beforehand because I don't want to have anything from the movie ruined.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, yep, there's two. Oh, there's only one. Oh, there's none. Okay, we can leave.
It's something to do while the credits roll, I guess.
Yep, something to do while waiting for that post credit scene. I really liked. We didn't get to touch on this yet. Um, as the pit was growing, and they were digging more and more kyber crystals, it was really cool seeing the city in the background grow and become bigger.
That's a really great scene where it shows like the hole gets deeper and wider. The city in the background grows. It's showing the sky changing from day to night in this real rapid pace. It was really well done, and that whole section is just really, really cool. Like they had to have been digging for like months, maybe even like a year.
And then the Empire, being evil, just said, "Okay, thanks, peace out. We're leaving here."
Yeah, that that part to me, I was like, wait, they're not really, are they? And then they did.
That my response is I see them. All right, pack up. The ships just start taking off. The people in the pit are like cheering. All of a sudden, the lights start going out. I was like, "Oh, that's a dick move."
And I love how they, if someone escapes the hole, they're like, they throw you back in.
That was
That,
brutal.
that was vicious.
Absolutely brutal. I was shocked at that. That shocked me actually, because
I
you
was
know, Star Wars has at least more recently become much more family friendly. Not that it wasn't before, but I never expected to see these two troopers just chuck this kid back in the pit to his death.
Actually, I guess it's the opposite. Star Wars is really becoming more adult friendly these days. Because Star Wars was hot take again. Star Wars, while a good story and everything, at the end of the day, they sell it to kids to sell action figures and plushes. That's why they made stuff. That's why the Ewoks existed. You know how many Ewoks they thought they could sell when they put
That's
them
why
in the
Jar Jar
movie?
Binks existed.
No, straight up, they thought kids would like Jar Jar Binks. They thought they could sell Jar Jar Binks action figures.
That's why porgs are a thing in Episode 8.
Yep, they could sell pork plushes.
I do like Porgs. Of all the sequel trilogy things, I like Porgs. They're cute.
I heard that when they were filming that there were a bunch of birds, maybe puffins. I don't know.
Yes,
Yeah, there were a bunch of puffins, and they were like, "Well, we can't get the puffins out of the shot, but if we just like animate over the puffins, then we can make that work."
that's how the Porg was born. I can't
Then we
remember
make
the name
money
of
off
that
it.
island, but yeah, that's where like the puffins like live and have their mating grounds, and they decided to film at that time, so the puffins were just everywhere.
On to the last episode. Owl? Owie song? It felt like there were two different pronunciations of her name this episode. Sometimes it sounded like ow, sometimes it sounded like owie.
Hmm.
Yeah, I'm not sure how to pronounce that properly.
But we'll go with owl song. This episode was done by Triggerfish Animation. They are based out of South Africa. Another relatively new studio, but they are working on a show called Kazazi Moto coming to Disney Plus.
Oh,
I didn't know that, but I'm looking forward to giving it a shot. Maybe, depending on what it is.
I don't know if it was because this was the last episode of the 9, but this episode really didn't hit with me. Like there were things I liked about it. Don't get me wrong. It was not my least favorite episode, but I don't know if it was just the burnout of watching all the episodes twice in a row or what, but there was things missing with this episode with me.
I really,
I
really
watched.
like this one. Go ahead, Sean.
Yeah, I watched all 9 episodes today, including this one about less than an hour before we started recording, and I'm kind of with Mike on this one. That I think honestly, I would have liked Visions a little more if it was only like 6 episodes. When I finished the pit, I was like, man, what a great way to end! How powerful! And I saw there was one more. I'm like, oh wait, there's one more. Yeah, I
And
guess I'll watch it.
the pit would have been perfect as a finale because it had a post credit scene.
Yep.
Actually, that's not a bad thought. If they would have rearranged these a little bit and put the pit last, that is a really good one to end on.
I also think this episode didn't really sit with me very well because it had a lot of the same story beats as the pit. It was a story revolving around kyber crystals, and the pit was all about the kyber crystals as well. So it's like, do we really need two kyber crystal heavy episodes back to back?
I actually felt the same way when I was going through that. I was like, oh, like another Kyber Crystal plot. I understand that the episodes weren't very similar, but like, oh, they could have broken those up a little bit because a lot of episodes were not about Kyber Crystals till that point.
I mean, to be honest, I think most of these are about a young child being taken by a Jedi or force sensitive individual for that one. Um, so they all kind of have a similar plot that way. And
Yeah,
one thing I would have maybe liked to have seen more throughout this whole thing is maybe some episodes that didn't involve Jedi. Like you can put the Force in there, sure, but like it's like, oh, you're Force sensitive. You should come with me. I will train you. That's what most of these were. To be fair,
Well, you're right. Most of them did just end in like, "I will take you away now,"
yeah. I mean,
or like,
I like
I don't
them,
know.
but I had to call that out. They most of them have that conclusion. We're like, oh, you're Force sensitive. Come with me. I will train you.
that's fair.
I mean, that is like the plot of Star Wars.
Yeah, I can't argue that either. I can't argue that.
Like that's like the plot of every Star Wars everything. It's like, oh, you're talented in the Force, eh?
I will say I really liked with this being stop motion. I really liked the backgrounds of a lot of the scenes, and I really liked how colorful this episode was.
Yes, the backgrounds looked really good, especially that scene where like they get on the speeder and they're like driving down the mountain,
Yeah,
and you see the mountain like spinning as they're going around while the speeder bike looks stationary. Like, that's really cool.
Once again, a lot of this was stop motion, right? Like, is that
yes,
yeah? So
and it
like,
was very like there were times where it was very easy to tell that it was stop motion.
yeah, like whether to its benefit or detriment,
Yes,
at times, yeah. But like I said, I'm a big fan of stop motion. So for me, like for the animation wise, it was very colorful and it hit the spot for me animation wise. The story, unfortunately, like you said, was the 9th episode. I was a little burned out, a little tired. It was a little hard to keep my focus because it didn't feel like anything interesting was happening the whole time for me.
I will say I loved the visuals of Ao singing and lighting the kyber crystals up and purifying all the kyber crystals with their song.
Yeah, that was
Yeah.
also really well done with the lighting and everything.
But yeah, otherwise it just felt very meh of an episode to me.
All right, I'm stepping up. I like this one a lot. I mean, if uh, I kind of rated these personally as I watched them out of a 1 to 10 scale. I gave this one a 9. I was way into this one. To me, it reminded me of when you're little, you get toys. And if you're into Star Wars, you get Star Wars toys. And in your head, as you play with your Star Wars toys, you envision yourself wrapped up in the Star Wars universe. That's exactly what this made me think of. All these characters, you can actually see like they're like stuffed bears, is what they look like. You can see like the little extra fabric coming off of the characters, and it looked like someone playing with their toys and making a Star Wars story out of it. So I thought that was super cool. The colors are vibrant. I think the stop motion is really cool, and actually, for a lot of it, really fluid for stop motion. I was kind of impressed with that. I'm a big music guy, so the fact that this story is based on audio, singing to connect with these kyber crystals in order to purify them from the darkness, from the dark side, I thought that was a really cool element, and I'm just overall a really big fan of this one. Um, from your points, for both of you, I can totally see this being the last one. I almost think, like we said, if the pit was the last one, that was a better ending than what this one is. This one might stood out a little bit more if it was more toward the middle. But as on its own, I really, really like this one. This one stood out to me.
I did really like how they used the story cards at the beginning.
Yeah, and that's very Star Wars to have the text scrolling. Now this wasn't scrolling, but I mean it gives you a quick background, like, hey, here's what's happening.
I did like it. Felt very Star Wars.
And with that, we have three categories awards that we are going to give out. First up, favorite animation of the 9 episodes. Turtle, would you like to go first?
My favorite animation, well, of our three categories, my favorite episode wins all three of these. So in order to break this up, I'm calling this a runners up for me. My runner up favorite animation is Owl Song. We just talked about it. I really like the aesthetic of playing with your toys to be in a Star Wars world, and this just really did it for me. I like the stop motion. I like the vibrant colors, the lighting, and everything with the crystals inside the caverns. I thought looked really good. So my favorite animation runner up is Owl Song.
Sean, what about you?
Yeah, for best animation, I'm gonna go with the episode Sith. Uh, I think that they were just flexing as hard as they could, and like you said, they didn't have a lot else. This may have been their first work, and I wonder if they threw everything they had at it. Because they're like, this is my chance to get onto the world stage, and so I feel like this is something someone or a team of people poured their heart and soul into to make as unique as possible, and they really brought their A game. I love that it just looked like a painting the whole way through. Great work.
Yeah, I also picked Sith as my favorite animation. It was the most unique of all of the episodes. And just all the transitions using the paint strokes, like everything about it was unique and cool. And I would love to see more from this studio in that style. Next up, favorite story. Sean, what was your favorite story?
I'm gonna pick Screecher's Reach. It was an extreme. It was one of the darkest stories. Not just because the lights went out in the cave. Um, because number one, a child had to kill someone. Um, Number two, um, a member of the Sith, we can assume, came down and made promises to a child they probably necessarily can't keep. Um, this is one of those stories where like a child in a bad situation is almost taken advantage of, and it's really terrible, but it really I don't know what it was. It struck a chord with me because the Star Wars universe, we see the heroes triumph and prevail very often, and this is one of those cases where there were no heroes in sight. The hero of our story is going to grow to be a probably a terrible person um, by the time they grow up. So I would actually really love to see a sequel to this episode, but I doubt they would touch on that.
Turtle, what was your favorite story?
Again, I'm going to call this a runner up. I'm going with The Pit. Like I said before, I just think this has the strongest message out of all the other ones, and this would work outside of the Star Wars universe in any other setting, any other kind of animation in live action. This one really, the message really hit me, and yeah, I don't know what else to say that we haven't already said, but it's a strong episode. Probably would have been a better ending than Al's song, but I really like the message for this one, and the artwork for the characters also really stuck out. And the post credit scene, check out that mural, really good.
I'm going to go with the Spy Dancer. It shows just how evil the Empire is. They steal children to become Imperial officers. They use the residents of the planet to entertain them. And then it shows how the rebels are working in the underground while the Empire is on their planet to try and break free. And just the reunion and the twist, everything about the twist was just so good. So yeah, everything about this, while it started slow, it was just a fantastic story to me. And finally, favorite episode, Turtle.
My favorite episode is my favorite animation and my favorite story. Number one, 10 out of 10, Journey to the Dark Head. This is so good. It's so good. It is so good. The animation is the best animation I think I've ever seen in anything. Colors are vibrant. The line work is absolutely incredible. I love the character designs. I like the story. I want to see more of these characters. I actually want a show based off of these people. I want to see what happens to them. I want to see how they got to this point. I want to see where they go further into the future. That to me, like that screams, that connected with me so well. It has to be my favorite. I can't not pick anything else.
Sean.
I am going to choose my favorite episode, Journey to the Dark Head. I think that I wouldn't say it's a blowout, but it's kind of a blowout. They told a complete story with incredible animation. Really, they really brought it. And if like this is the kind of story that I could have seen being in like the Clone Wars TV show, or something like that. Like it fits right into the universe. If they would have filmed this with live action people, they could have made half a series out of this one episode with real people, and people would like it and watch it. It just everything about it was good. I have nothing bad to say.
Yeah, we're making a clean sweep. I'm also picking Journey to the Dark Head. It was just, it felt so Star Wars, and it felt anime, and just from start to finish, I was hooked on this episode both times I watched it. And yeah, so fantastic. I would love for this studio to give us a Legend of Korra style Star Wars show with multiple seasons. It doesn't even have to be these characters. Just get this studio to do more animated Star Wars work.
I'm in. I'm watching it. When's it
That's
start?
fair. Give them a contract now.
So that concludes Star Wars Visions Volume 2. Let us know if you would like us to go back and watch Volume 1 again and hear our thoughts on Volume 1.
I'm totally down for that.
If the people want it, we're gonna give it. You know what I mean? If they want us to talk about other Star Wars content, I wouldn't. Yeah, I don't want this to become a Star Wars podcast or anything like that. But if people want to know more about, reach out to us on social media. We'll happily answer with our favorite movies and things like that.
Yeah, I will never turn down an opportunity to talk about Star Wars. Thank you all for joining us this week as we talked about Star Wars Visions Volume 2. We hope you join us next week for episode 8 of the Anime Banter podcast, where we will be watching episodes 1 and 2 of Trigun Stampede. Please give us a 5-star review on all platforms that allow reviews. Turtle, do you have anything you would like to plug?
You can find me on my YouTube channel, RPG Treasure Trove, where a friend and I sit down couch co-op style and we play through RPG games. Feel free to check us out. Like, subscribe if you enjoy what we're doing. I hope you have a good time. Stop on by and say hi.
Sean, do you have anything you would like to plug?
I'm always plugging the Deepman Files week in and week out, but once again, I will be plugging Techo in July, the Pittsburgh Anime Convention. I volunteer for them, and I'm gonna be there with the Deepman Files, and come find me and chat with me. I'd love to talk anime.
I'm hoping to stop down to Techo for at least a day this year.
I was going to say, I might be making an appearance as well, so maybe we'll make a thing of it.
The Anime Banter podcast can be found on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. Thank you all for joining, and we will talk to you next week.